and welcome to today's segment of The Power of Money with Michelle Graves. And again, I'm your host, Michelle Graves, and I'm delighted to be able to present to you another absolutely phenomenal interview with a gentleman who I must tell you, I am just honored to be able to talk to him and to have him to share with you, my viewers, faithful for many years, about his organization and what they do and how it can benefit you. And so we're not going to waste a lot of time because I'm interested in the information that he is going to provide. And hopefully, if you can't benefit, I'm positive you have friends, family, and support community that needs to know what they do, and he, as the executive director, is going to share that. Aaron Broomall. Good morning.
Good morning, Michelle. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so honored and delighted to have you on set today to share with us via Zoom. And the technology looks like it's working today. We're looking at you and you look great. So let's begin by your introducing yourself to my viewers and listeners, and give us a little background about you. I'm interested in you first, and then we'll get into the organization.
Thanks so much, Michelle. It's an honor to get to be here today. My name is Aaron Broomall. I'm the Executive Director of Faith Community Pharmacy, and I've been lucky enough to be here since 2019, just before the pandemic hit. Born and raised in northern Kentucky, right across the river from Cincinnati. Went to college in Ohio, and then started working in the banking sector, was a vice president of a bank, got my MBA, and then was asked to leave the banking world and become the executive pastor of a non-denominational Christian church. I did that for a little over a decade before I came to Faith Community Pharmacy. So I love what I get to do here. I love that we make a very practical difference in the lives of friends and neighbors.
This is such good information. My background is banking. I bought banks globally and was a committed Christian, very committed in terms of being able to use systems to benefit humans all over the world. People are challenged right now with the quality of their life and the affordability of so many things, particularly as it relates to their health and their families. So tell me a little bit. So I find you're going from banking to ministry, and now you are into ministry in action. That's what I think you are doing right now. And I must tell you, what an awesome place to be at this time in history. I mean, it's so chaotic and crazy out here. And here you are with all of this discipline and training and resources. So tell us about this particular organization now.
Faith Community Pharmacy was started in 2002. There were a number of pharmacists in northern Kentucky who came across the idea because of a charitable pharmacy in New Orleans. They saw it, and the idea came to northern Kentucky, and they realized, because they were seeing it every day, that patients were coming into their pharmacies and walking away from prescriptions simply because they couldn't afford it. Like many of us, we would say that that's completely unacceptable. Your level of income shouldn't determine your health or your access to being able to have medication. And so in 2002, they decided to start a charitable pharmacy that gave away medications 100% for free without charging insurance. So they started small. I know, I love it. I'm the lucky recipient of all of their amazing work and all of their passion. And they started small. They got donations from doctors who had extra samples. They bought some medications, and slowly over the years we have grown. We have gained greater access to medications. Our clientele base has grown, and so now we're serving about 1,000 people a year, giving away between 23 and 25,000 90-day prescriptions a year, worth between $4 and $5 million.
Aaron, that is powerful. Why do I say that? Because I'm actively enrolled right now as a licensed insurance agent doing Medicare and Medicaid. And I am going to
Hmm.
tell you, the medications are devastating in terms of the expense. And I don't, unless you're getting the medications free, most people have to pay. And it can be absolutely devastating to a home and the budget of a family. Have you found that to be the case?
Oh, it's absolutely the case. There was a recent study by Kaiser Family Foundation that found that 3 in 10 Americans couldn't afford prescriptions and were either rationing, not taking, or trying to substitute. And we see it every day here. We see I think it's something like 80 to 90% of the patients that comes to see us are rationing or not taking critical life-saving medications. And it's people that I think in some ways we think maybe once I get to Medicare, all this is going to be taken care of, right? We think I'm going to retire. We have this great healthcare system that's going to take care of me. And most people don't realize the level of copays and deductibles that are still there, even when we get to that stage of life. Our average patient makes less than $24,000 a year, has 3 different chronic disease states, and gets 9 different medications from us. And we hear
Goodness.
stories every day of husband and wives coming in. They're both diabetics, and we'll ask them what they were doing before they got here, and they said, "Well, we had $50 a month in our budget that we could spend on insulin." So we spent
Ah,
$50 and we would split it and take turns taking it and hope that it helped us get through to the end of the month. It's tragic and it's totally unacceptable. And most of these people, not that it matters, but most of these people are people that have worked their entire lives. They did everything right. They worked hard. They had good jobs. They retired from good jobs, good hardworking jobs, and they just can't afford their medication.
I think this is why I had to have you on, because what you all are doing in Northern Kentucky, and I must say prejudicially, I am a Kentuckian. So I'm always looking closely at anything that is happening in my home state, particularly something that impacts on so many people. And you said some very powerful things, and I'll say it to my viewers. Medicare does not provide most people with free medications. There are, it depends on the plan, there may be an amount you have to pay before they kick in. And it can be extremely burdensome, especially viewers, when you have chronic conditions and diseases. Have you found that to be the case, Aaron?
It's absolutely the case. It's why our pharmacy is built the way it is. We focus on treating chronic disease states that disproportionately impact the poor. And as you probably know, the poor are impacted by social determinants of health, which contribute to these chronic disease states. And these chronic disease states are typically the most expensive to treat. And so you're more likely to get it if you're poor, and they're the most expensive diseases to treat. So we focus on things like diabetes, COPD, asthma, cardiovascular health, mental health, gastrointestinal. And you're right, when it comes to Medicare recipients, there's some really good laws that are passing now that are capping some medication cost, and we are huge fans of all of those. But for our patients, even capping it is not going to cover. They simply just do not have the money to afford it. We hear a lot of people say, well, that medication only has a $5 or $6 copay.
Huh.
Okay, well, maybe if it was one medication at $5 or $6, maybe they could afford it. But remember, our patients are getting 9 different medications from us. So it's not $5 or $6, it's $50 or $60 on a monthly household income of $2,000, and that's gross, not net. And so when you start whittling it down, you think of the cost of housing, the cost of food, the cost of transportation, the cost of everything else. There's just not money to cover it.
I get it. And I'm so offended in a nation that is so wealthy. And viewers, you know I'm telling you the truth. This is a wealthy nation. And to find people in the most vulnerable years of their life, usually when they're in their 60s, and all of these conditions, many of them induced and the result of poor eating experiences, poor lifestyle, period. And now they're sick. Well, geez, we can give money every place else, but we cannot do something for our own citizens? This is not right, Aaron. So tell me what your typical response is. If a person comes in, does a doctor make the referral, or do they just walk in? How do they attach to your organization?
Sure. So our methodology is not the same as every charitable pharmacy methodology. We focus very much on how do we stay as efficient as possible so we can have as much money going into medications as we can. So the preferred way for a patient to get to us is through their doctor. Like any other pharmacy, we can't give anything away without a prescription. So if you don't go to a doctor, there's really nothing we can do. You have to have a prescription. So that's the preferred way. But we understand that not everybody has a relationship with a physician. We also understand that traditionally communities of color have had less trusting relationships with physicians. So you can get to us without a doctor, and we will help you get those prescriptions. Preferably your doctor sends them. Anybody that comes to us, anybody, if you came to us, Michelle, and you said, I can't afford this medication, regardless of insurance or income, we would give you 90 days of that medication because we understand that life happens to everyone. And if you have the wherewithal to come and say, I can't afford it, we at least want to get you 90 days and then help set you up on another methodology to get help if you don't qualify. If you're at or below 300% of the federal poverty level, which for a family of two, so this typically what we see, not always, we have a lot of younger patients too, but often older adults that are married, that's an income at or below about $52,000 to $53,000 a year. Again, that's higher than our average patient. Our average patient is a two-household family making less than $24,000 a year. But what we found is even up to $53,000, if you're suffering from some of these major chronic diseases that are extremely expensive, especially like diabetes, high blood pressure, COPD, it's still a major struggle to afford your medications. For patients that enroll with us, they are enrolled and we'll provide them with free medications on an ongoing basis. The way we do that to stay super efficient is the first time they come to us, we give them 90 days worth of meds. And we tell them, here's every other day this year that you're going to have medications ready for you. Every 90 days, we're going to automatically refill it. If you can come to our location, you can come and pick them up every 90 days. But if you can't, we're going to ship them directly to your home. So
Wow.
This really helps with adherence. It helps people stay on top of it. The other thing that we do that's really unique, Michelle, I'm not asking you what medications, but do you take any medications regularly?
I'll be very candid with you, Aaron. I was diagnosed type 2 diabetic, a diabetic mellitus, and I have recently, as a result of advanced blood work that I advocated for, they have determined that I am type 1.
My gosh.
Oh, no. I'm telling you right now, I am not in a good space or place because that technology for people that have gone from a type 2 to a type 1 is still in its infancy. We know about child diabetes, but for a woman in her 70s to now be type 1 and they're trying to replicate, it's absolutely crazy. And that's all I take. I don't take anything other than supplements. I am not a meat eater. My background is in banking and biochemistry, so I'm not gonna do that. But I'm telling you, even with Joe Biden's discount plan, insulin is expensive. expensive.
It is.
I
And
don't
where
care
I
how
was,
anybody says. Insulin is expensive. And now I have
it
two types.
well, I'm going to jump back to that.
Yeah,
But where I
please
was
do.
leading you is do you go to a retail pharmacy?
Of what else is out here?
What's the customer service like when you go to that pharmacy?
It depends on the day.
It does,
It
and
depends on the day.
and it's not their fault. Pharmacists are getting squeezed from every side because of some regulations that are in place right now, and they just don't have time to spend with patients. And so here, not only do we give away free medication, we take a very, very personal approach with our patients. We understand that having 3 or more chronic disease states, 9 different medications, it's complicated. It's testing. It's making sure you take the right amount. It's watching out for all these drug interactions. And so we know our patients by name. Our pharmacists
Wow.
are accessible to them. They can call and talk to a pharmacist or a pharmacy tech or a fourth-year doctorate pharmacy student. Once a year, they have at least one meeting with our program director who knows all sorts of other resources to help them with. And so for us, it's not just here's medication. It's here's medication, but here is support. Because I'm sure you know, Michelle, navigating the whole health process now is so complicated. You're telling me
Like,
about it. And to know that you have an advocate on your side that's going to talk to you and spend time with you and not try to rush you off the phone really, really makes a lasting impact. And so that's something that's very important to us too.
and I will tell you what just happened to me, Aaron, and I am livid. The pharmacists, big players, refilled an insulin that I'm no longer on.
Mm,
And
yeah.
I took a look at the packaging and I said, "Oh, wait. I can't take this stuff. I may be out of here." I mean, literally, you can
Mm-hmm.
die from that stuff. And I called them back, and they were in a flurry because I said, "This is unacceptable and it's also illegal. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what you want to do with this medication. And I need to know if I'm going to get a refund since you made an error." And the lead pharmacist said, "Miss Graves, bring it over, no questions asked. We'll give you your money back." I said, "You, thank you. It's better than me being in a box." But my
Mm-hmm.
point is that it if I am a self advocate and I am fairly knowledgeable about these things, great. But what about the average person? And that's where you all come in with this ability to talk to people as humans who just need information and help to improve the quality of their life. This stuff is complicated and
It
expensive
is.
and expensive
Yep.
and
And I
expensive.
think that's part of what comes. I want to make 2 comments on that. Part of that comes from us being a faith-based organization, and we have a foundational belief that every individual has infinite value, and because they have
Yes.
infinite value and worth, they deserve an opportunity to thrive in life. They deserve to be treated with the utmost dignity and respect. And so when patients come here, we want them to have a better experience. Right now, we want them to have a much better experience than if they would go to a regular retail pharmacy. And it's based on that we believe people are valued. The second thing is with the pharmacy world right now, I know a lot of pharmacists. All of them desperately want to take care of patients. They desperately want to be able to talk to patients. They want to be able to spend time with them. That's why they went into pharmacy, the vast majority of. And unfortunately, the system that we have in place now, especially with pharmacy benefit managers and with shrinking reimbursements from insurers, pharmacies and pharmacists are just getting so squeezed. And what's being asked of them reminds me almost of working on an assembly
Oh,
line. They're not getting judged based on the quality of service that they're providing to people. They're getting judged based on how many prescriptions can they check in an hour so that they can keep the organization going. And and it's just gotten so out of whack. And the challenge with that is that, in Northern Kentucky in the last 6 months, we have had 3 independent pharmacies close. And those
Wow.
independent pharmacies are the ones that were providing that high touch service. Those are ones where the lead pharmacist is the owner, that they've been there forever. They know their patients. They know the people that come in. They can say, "Hi, Bob. Hi, Sue. How's this?" There's time to ask them a question. And those are closing down because of the system we have in place now. And it's funneling more and more individuals to the big players. And the big players have bottom line as their bottom line. And that means that pharmacists become assembly line workers. These people with doctorate degrees that have worked hard their entire life, have a passion for people. The job has just changed so much. And in the last 5 years, it's changed. And it's getting worse. And I hope something is done soon.
I will tell you the scenario that you are presenting to me is almost identical in the medical profession. People complain about my doctor does not have time for me and 15 minutes in a computer, and the number of doctors who are leaving, and the spectacular rise in suicides among surgeons. I didn't know if you were aware of that, but it's skyrocketing. And I'm saying to you that this is a problem. So this is why I share with family, friends, television, anybody, you must learn the power of self-advocating. It's not that your doctor's a good doctor or a bad doctor. They're all trained. They all have to go through residency. And yet they are absolutely overwhelmed because of the federal regulations, the requirement for profitability in a caring industry by mandate. I mean, the Hippocratic Oath. And then you tell me about pharmacists who are responsible. And I say this because my own child, my youngest child, is in that industry heavily and very conscientious and all the above, but they are overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed. So your organization, if you will continue, you offer a high-tech touch environment. Where do you get your medications?
That's a great question. So we get medications from a number of different sources. We buy a lot of medications, especially a lot of generic medications that we can buy at a relatively low price. People ask us, why do you provide those? It goes back to what I told you earlier, is that, well, that might only be a copay of $4 to $6 for somebody, but it's not one copay, it's 9 copays. And so we know that a lot of patients, and I'm sure some of your viewers experience this, is, well, it's not that one big medication, it's death by 1,000 cuts. It's death by all these small cuts. And so we purchase a number of medications. We have partnerships with drug manufacturers and distributors that typically will give us a certain amount of medications free each month, a certain dollar amount that we get to purchase for free, or will give us a discount up to a certain dollar amount. We partner with physicians. We have great partnerships with physicians. If they have extra samples, they'll send them our way and we can distribute those to patients. We just helped write, we're the largest charitable pharmacy in Kentucky. We actually wrote the charitable pharmacy laws in Kentucky when we came into being in 2002.
Oh, wow.
We're continuing to write laws so that we improve the services. So we just wrote a law that has to do with repository drug laws. And what that is at nursing homes or at places that care for individuals that distribute medication. In the past, if a patient was taken off the medication or they passed away, that nursing home would actually have to pay to destroy the medication. It would still be good, but they'd have to pay to destroy it. We help get laws passed and rules put in place that now they can give that medicine to us and we can redistribute it to those in need. Finally, we get medications from an organization called AmeriCares. AmeriCares is an international organization that works with drug manufacturers, and they take short-dated or overstock products, so products that are going to expire too soon for the manufacturer to sell, or just they have too much of a medication and they redistribute it to free and charitable clinics throughout the United States. We also, through them, have a special partnership with Eli Lilly. We get all of our diabetic injectables for free from Eli Lilly through Americares.
Wow.
We're the second largest distributor of free injectable medications in the country through Eli Lilly. So
Can you
we're
believe
lucky to
that?
have that.
I am telling you, you're giving me hope. I'm kidding you. I This is all such good information, and I'm sure for those you only work in Northern Kentucky in terms of your clients and your constituents. What resources are available outside of your market that would be available for people like in Ohio? This show goes all over, and YouTube. And I know that people are really, really alert to this kind of information. Do you have any thoughts or resources that you feel comfortable sharing?
Absolutely. I wish there were more of us as charitable pharmacies,
Me too.
but but there are a number. We cover 13 counties in Kentucky, and we kind of loosely define Northern Kentucky. So if you're out of Northern Kentucky and you don't have a charitable pharmacy, still call us and we try to figure something out. If you're in other parts of the country, I know our sister organization, St. Vincent de Paul Community Pharmacy, is in Cincinnati. They cover 3 counties in Cincinnati. You can also go to 2 websites: the National Association of Free and Charitable Clinics. That's www.nafcclinics.org. In there, you put in your zip code, and it'll pull up all the charitable clinics and pharmacies around you. There's also a
Wow.
website called
Mm-hmm.
charitablepharmacy.org. That's the Charitable Pharmacy Organization, Charitable Pharmacies of America organization. You can search in there too. I will tell you, all those things are great. But just as you said, you have to be an advocate for yourself. The best first conversation is having an honest conversation with your doctor. The best first conversation is going to your doctor and saying, I can't afford my medicines. I need help. Hospital systems, doctors' offices have resources that can help you. They have incentives to help you. Their reimbursement rates through Medicaid and Medicare are partially based on adherence to medication. So they have incentives to help you. They may have a 340B pharmacy, which is a federally funded discount program that certain hospital and doctors' offices have. They can help you apply for free medications through manufacturers. So some manufacturers have manufacturer assistance programs. They can help you with discount cards. They can help you with all sorts of things. Or they can refer you to an organization like us. I know it's hard with your doctor, and I know you were talking earlier about advocating for yourself and having a
Yes.
relationship. And unfortunately, I think doctors want to do the absolute best they can for every patient. But we also can't ignore, Michelle, that systemic racism still exists in our country. And
Yes.
for minorities,
Yes.
individuals of color, individuals with different sexual identities, um, it is more difficult. And unfortunately, you do have to be a bigger advocate for yourself, and you have to lovingly make yourself heard. And so the best conversation is always to start with your doctor. If you can't get through to your doctor, the next conversation needs to be to your insurance company. They're the other one that has a
Yes.
vested interest in you staying healthy. They have a lot of programs, they have a lot of resources. Most people have no idea of all the benefits they can get through their health insurance, and there are a lot. They can also advocate to have their drugs re-tiered. And so I'm
Hmm.
sure you know about the tiered system,
Yes.
Michelle, but you have a certain formulary, which is the drugs that your insurance will cover up to a certain amount. And so you may be prescribed something that would be a very high tiered drug. Like that's a drug they don't want to pay for whatever reason. You can advocate for that to be re-tiered down and so that it would be less expensive for you. You can also, if you're on Medicare or Medicaid, we're in the renewal system for Medicare. you can look at other insurance providers of Medicare to see if the medications you're on are tiered differently on their plan, which will mean your out-of-pocket pay is less. So there are a lot of different avenues. They do take a lot of work. It takes a lot of work,
It
but
does.
typically if you can figure it out once, it'll stay figured out for a while. So that's the good part.
Well, I would like to also say that, and I spoke at a gathering yesterday where I said again that you must, with the availability of Google to research, as well as AI, artificial intelligence is upending this entire conversation about customized healthcare. We are fast approaching a day and time where these computers will be able to analyze you personally in great detail and make recommendations. Now, I'm not against that at all because I know the industry has got to change, that with the advanced technology, it's here, but consumers, we have to do our part. And that is that we have to be willing to carefully examine all of our options. If your doctor does not have the time to give you what you need in terms of listening, then I'm going to say, no disrespect, that you need to find another doctor. And you need to talk to your insurance carriers for recommendations. And you need to do your research because all of that information is out here. But the thing that troubles me so much, Aaron, is that you're getting these donations and medications free, but because of the capitalist nature of even medicine, there's a cost associated with it. And I have to say that for most Americans that are seniors or approaching, it can be prohibitive as you get sicker. I mean, when you talk about cancer medications and issues of heart, those medications, 4 and 5, those medications are woo-wee. Do you have access to those on a donated basis?
So we don't. We
Ah,
don't carry those medications. It's not that we couldn't necessarily carry them. We may be able to get them, but specifically where we live, and this is why where you live matters based on what your charitable pharmacy is. Specifically where we live in northern Kentucky, we are dominated by one healthcare system. That healthcare system does have a 340B pharmacy, which
okay.
allows them to get severely discounted medications that they can sell at a discounted rate to patients. The hospital system gets to decide how they will use their 340B. The hospital system
Oh.
where we live uses their 340B primarily for their specialty pharmacy, which is the really high dollar drugs. And so those are things that are treating things like cancer. And so, for the most part, where we live, cancer patients have pretty good access to medication. But certainly in other areas, it's different. And it matters your hospital system. It matters if they have a 340B pharmacy. It matters how they decide to use their 340B pharmacy.
Hmm.
There's just a lot of things that go on there.
But you know what I think is most important and what you all do provide is you treat people under the assumption that they need to know. And you can simplify many of the terminologies and the language so that individuals understand. I know for myself, my hardest push with everyone is your diet. You cannot eat the things you eat. In this part of the country, as I'm sure you know, Kentucky and Southern Ohio, obesity is through the roof. And they eat junk food, they drink all of the sodas that are full of chemicals, and then they get sick. Now, do you all get involved with nutritional counseling as well with your patients?
So, Michelle, we did a study about 2.5 years ago looking into this exact thing, looking
Mm.
into the eating habits of our patients. And what we found were two things. About 90% of our patients said, one, I'm not really sure what I should eat. I don't really know what I should eat. And two, I'm pretty sure what I am supposed to eat, I can't afford.
Oh,
There are
wow.
certainly those individuals that are consciously making a choice to eat garbage, to eat things that aren't healthy. I think many more people run into that problem of I don't know what I should eat. I'm trying just to get me and my family full based on what we can afford, and what we can afford is carbohydrate-rich items that make us feel full. I can afford those things. Not to mention with many low income individuals, and sometimes we pass judgment on it, and I just don't think judgment has any place.
No.
With many low income individuals, you don't get a lot of special things. It's not like many other individuals that we can go out and we can go to the ball game. We can do special things. You know, we start it young because it's well, I can afford a bag of chips for my kids, and that's a really great thing to do, and they'll feel better. And I want to do the small things that make my kids or make me feel better at times. And food is part of that comfort, and so I understand why people get to this place. What we started after we found that study, we don't want to be a food distributor and we don't want to be an educator because that's not what we do, but we went and we made partnerships. And so now we offer a free diabetes food as medicine class where we partner with the UK Extension Office, who provides the education, and we partner with a food pantry in our area called Be Concerned. The class consists of a 7-week class that teaches you specifically how you should eat, but it goes deeper into some other issues that low income individuals face, such as food safety, such as just how to cook. I don't know how to cook, so it has cooking demonstrations. It has simple techniques for lowering your grocery bill. I do all the shopping in our household. I make a grocery list every week. I make a meal plan every week. I know what we're going to eat. I know when we're going to eat it, and that's the only thing I buy at the store. Many individuals just don't do that, and they don't realize how much money that costs them. So we offer this free class that runs for 7 weeks. We give everybody that comes a $25 Kroger gift card every time they come. And this is the most important part, we give them free disease-specific food at every class they come to with recipes for them to make that week that go along with the specific food so that they can come back and talk about it. We can discover what they like. We can discover where more education is. And then after the class is over, we continue to provide them free disease specific staple foods that can be an ongoing basis based on their need. And so we've started that program. It's going fantastic. We have over 30 people in our current class. We've gotten funding. We won an award for the class, and we've gotten funding to last for 18 months. And now we're working with the University of Kentucky Food as Medicine program to help pass legislation in the state of Kentucky that would cause Medicare and Medicaid to pay for programs like this and for the food provided. So we're actively working on this. We're actively advancing it. But it's a huge deal. And when we talk to people about health, this comes up all the time. We talk about health, and people think of health as medicine and doctors. And when I'm talking to funders, when I'm talking to partners, I'm like, well, health is that, but it's also housing. It's also access to transportation. It's also the food that we have available for them to eat. It's also education. It's health is all of these things rolled together, and that's the way that we need to approach it. And we try to be a leader in that Northern Kentucky.
You need to be so commended for your foresight and understanding of these all interconnections. I firmly believe, and I say this because in Kentucky, and I'm sure if you talk to people, people had gardens, and we grew. I still grow my food. I'm obviously in a different place, but there's something about the dirt and growing your own food. And we did not eat a lot of meat because we were poor people, period.
Mm-hmm.
And meat is expensive, but we did eat a lot of kale, spinach, lettuce, tomatoes, okra, all of those things that are healthy. And as a result, we lived a long, long time. Longevity was not a thought. But now, as I look at the fast food phenomena, I look at tremendously large people, and I understand the rationale, which is, I need to feel good. I need this. And the fact that it has long term consequences is not a thought at the time, because we now have a generation of young people that don't even know how to use forks and spoons, because everything is a hamburger or a hot dog. And for $1, it's amazing what you can get today for $1, although it's totally devoid of any health attributes. So I think what you're doing is I just sat here and I'm trying not to cry on air, but it's so powerful and so ahead of the current, just the current environment that we're in. There is a connection between food and drugs, Aaron. There is.
So that's really our motivation well, it's twofold. One, we're really the only organization in our area that is primarily focused on low-income chronic disease sufferers. And if we don't step up and lead, we don't know that anybody else will step up and lead. The other part of it is we would love to go out of business. We would love to not be needed. Mm-hmm. We would love to give away less medication because people don't need it. And so that is all a matter of tooling to how do we do that to reduce the dependency on medications, and find other solutions that are better solutions.
I totally get it. So I want to talk about this a little more, and that is that how do you bridge the racial and cultural gap that is so much a part of this story? And how do you have advocacy within your organization or reach out programs? How do you deal with the medical distrust? And I'm not saying it's without merit, because Tuskegee and Henrietta Lack are real. And people are concerned about whether doctors are genuinely concerned. So how would you like to speak to your organization's response to that?
It's hard, Michelle.
I know.
It's hard, and I don't think we can just look at the big examples like Tuskegee. We can look at the facts that if you're a woman of color, the chance of you having your child not be able to be carried to term is multifold higher than if you're not a person of color. I mean, it's still happening today. That the color of your skin can determine the quality of your care. And some of that may be related to your level of income. It might be related to other things, but the color of your skin still has a distinct impact on the disease states that you're likely to have and the quality of care that you're likely to get. And I don't think that we can ignore that I'm a cis white man sitting here having this conversation either. And so there's only so much that I can understand too, even though I grew up relatively poor. Our strategy is, I will admit it's hard. Our strategy is that, one, we have representation on our staff and on our board of directors that can bring perspectives to us that we might not otherwise see. Two, in northern Kentucky, like many places, we have a growing Hispanic population, and so we have a growing population that only speaks Spanish. We make sure that we have a Spanish-speaking pharmacist on staff.
That's
You can use translation services, and they're great. But the truth is that especially our Spanish-speaking and Hispanic Latinx populations, there is an even greater mistrust that happens. And having the ability to speak to a healthcare professional in their own language makes a massive, massive difference. The last thing is it's all about creating partnerships. It's all about trying to find places where individuals are and identifying how we can get to them to spread our message with trusted voices. That's the huge thing in populations that are often underserved and discriminated against, is reaching those individuals that are already trusted, engaging them, helping to see what we do as trustworthy, and having them be the ones to spread the word in the community that we can also be trusted.
That's That's a lot.
It is
And
a
then
lot.
that,
It's
and
hard, and,
then
and I'll
run,
be honest, we're not
yeah,
doing as good of a job as I want us to. At all, we're not doing as good of a job as I want us to. And so we're looking at a strategic plan right now. And a huge part of it is what are other pathways to get to us? Maybe we're over dependent on doctors sending people, and that already creates discrimination because we know that that discriminates towards older people that have Medicare
yeah.
and that have trust for doctors are going to be the ones that find us. Well, what about other people? And so constantly working on how do we expand those pathways so that everybody, there should be nobody in Northern Kentucky going without medications because they can't afford them. And we're not going to stop until everybody has the meds.
I think this has been an amazing, incredible, and I might say historic conversation because I am absolutely convinced that in the years ahead, something has to give. Something has to give. You cannot have in America, which espouses Christian values, this kind of disparity where everything is about money. And please don't disregard me. They know me as the money lady. But I believe in ethical and responsible treatment of that very powerful venue, which is called currency, money. It has to move. I don't believe in the precepts that we see so many times today where the rich are selfish and self-consumed at the expense of other people. I tell them you can give away millions of dollars just on your compounding and not suffer any loss. But the message of being able, corporations, pharmaceutical companies, giving you all drugs that are free, that to me is pretty basic. I mean, they're making billions of dollars in profits off of
Michelle,
us.
I think about what you say, and part of my pitch to people is just like when you invest in a business, right? I have an MBA background, I think from a banking background.
Mm-hmm.
We think of return on investment, right? Like how much am I
Absolutely.
putting in versus what am I going to get out? And unfortunately, based on the political situation in the United States, based on a number of factors, we have so lowered the level of discourse that all we look at is what we put in. And we say, well, that put in price is too high for me to do something. And we never take the step back to say, well, what's my return on investment for this put in? And the truth is, there is
Mm-hmm.
extremely high
Mm-hmm.
cost to people
Yep.
not getting high quality health care in the United States. There is extremely high cost to people not being able to take medications. And we are all already paying that cost. We're paying that cost through higher prices when we go to the hospital, through higher insurance prices, through higher taxes because we have to have squad runs all the time. We have to boost up our fire department. We are paying these costs already. And what I would argue and what we've shown is that if we can find a way to invest in the baseline of healthcare, the return on investment will far exceed our investment,
Yes.
and we will all see the cost savings as a result. Um, it is a business case. There is a money case for doing what we're doing and for fixing a system because there are these extreme down the line costs that happens from having an unhealthy populace.
Well, it's manifesting right now, Aaron, because we are not at the top in terms of healthcare, longevity, mortality, for all of the quote money we have. We genuinely are a sick society. And I believe a lot of it has been propelled by politics, but even more so, the distancing of people from the concept of engaging and engagement with your fellow humans. That's why I talk about humans, because at the end of the day, it's not the color of your skin, it is a fact that it is your DNA and your blood. And
Mm-hmm.
we are all in this together. We can't get out of it. We're in it together. So, how do you propose? And you've said a lot, and you've given me such clarity and insight about what you are about as executive director, because, like it or not, you lead the troops. You lead da, 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 da. You lead the troops. You give them the vision. You give them the strategy, and you give them the hope that enables them to do this every single day, many times without necessarily positive outcomes. But you are the impetus behind this. What is, and we're running out of time, but I need you to talk about what your vision is for healthcare and the poor in America.
It's got to be holistic, Michelle. It's got to be holistic. We are focused on fixing the cracks in the house rather than on building a firm foundation for people. And as long as we focus on wait until it breaks and then try to fix it, we're going to constantly have problems. If we don't provide these things at a basic level, and I'm not saying it has to be government, there are a lot of different ways to provide
exactly.
these. Until we get to a holistic system of health, which starts with education and providing people with a quality education that can allow them to go out and work a good job when they get out of high school or when they get out of college. It matters providing food, making sure people can afford the food that's going to impact it, making sure that we have education so that people know the garbage that's in their food and know what it causes. When we make sure that people have housing, you can't be healthy without housing. All of these things, it's got to be a holistic policy of how do we create health in our society. And it will make us more wealthy. It will make us richer. It will make us a better society. All these things come together, but it's got to be holistic. You can't just look at wait until it breaks and then try to fix it.
Well, we're not cars, and and it's not like you can replace, a bad heart with an alternator.
Yep.
There are permanent consequences to the quality of life that so many of us are forced to live up under. And I will tell you that despite all of my sophistication and learning and research and all of that, it's still hard. And I know that the average person is just trying to get through the day. They're not trying to get into heavy research and do I have this conversation with my doctor? Why? Because the doctor only has 15 minutes and you are not going to go there. You're not. They can't. So we're at a crossroads, I feel. It is, and you're right there. You are right there, but the crossroad is here. The number of sick people, the number of people that are sick and poor, because you will be poor. Viewers, hear me well. You may not be poor when you start off, but by the time you get through this healthcare system, you will be. You'll be wondering what in the world has happened to my money and to myself. And this is why I'm saying the change in this industry is paramount. And you're right there where it needs to begin the conversation, the steps, the collaboratives, the cooperatives. We have the resources, Aaron. No doubt. No doubt. We have the resources to get it done. The challenge is, can we move beyond self-centeredness and selfishness and begin to realize that it's a bigger world than just me and my family. It's bigger. There are more people, and it's up to us as a nation and as a populace to determine that we're not dealing with this no more. This is not right. Things have to change. Do you have any final comments, and can you give me a telephone number, please?
Yeah, real quick comment. You see this picture above me? I keep it in my office and behind me all the time. I took that when I was in Nigeria. I've been there a number of times working with orphans, and this is in a town. You can see it maybe a little bit. There's a burned out building behind that plant that's blossoming in beautiful flower, and it was in a place where I visited. There was ongoing Christian-Muslim strife. and this town that I went to that was living Christians and Muslims in the same town. And the Christians came and forced a pastor of the orphanage that we were working with that day to point out all the homes of the Muslims, and they burned them down. And they burned them with people
No,
inside of them. And
no,
I went with
no,
these young people who had already lost their families, they had already been
no.
devastated. And I spent time with them, and you could go into the rooms and see through the windows the burned out buildings. And I thought of just all the devastation they had already felt in their life. And yet, um, we played with them, we loved them, and there was still joy inside of them. And those people are going to go on to do amazing things for reconciliation and healing because of what
Yes,
they've seen. And I
yes,
keep this picture all the time because it reminds me that even in the midst of the most awful things, there is joy and beauty sprouting somewhere. And
yes.
I want us to be that joy and beauty here in Northern Kentucky, that there are a lot of people devastated, and we are going to be the joy and beauty that's sprouting in the midst of the ugliness to bring hope that things can be different. So
Give,
that's what I keep doing every day. Our number is 859-426-7837, faithcommunitypharmacy.org. Give
can
us
you
a call.
say it
Check out our
again?
website,
Good, say it again.
faithcommunitypharmacy.org,
Okay.
859-426-7837.
This has been an incredible journey, and so appreciate and respect your transparency. And I just know that you're going to make a profound difference. You already are. And your board of directors and the people that are supporting you quietly, praying for you, supporting you financially and otherwise, awesome, awesome thing. I hope in the days ahead that I'm coming to your facility. I got to.
Good.
No, I'm coming. You got to know Michelle. I'm going to boots on the ground. I want to shake your hand. I want to thank you. And I want to say again, in closing out on today's segment of The Power of Money, I've had Aaron Broomall with the Faith Pharmacy Organization that gives out free medications, no questions asked. God bless all of you all, and we'll be talking soon. Bye-bye.